Hello, continuing with Alice Bailey's book, Esoteric Psychology. This section is certain questions and their answers. This is definition C, where she tackles the question of what is the soul and its nature. In the previous videos, we covered definition A and B. Definition A, real quick, was that the soul can be spoken of as the son of the father and of the mother, spirit and matter. Spirit being the father, mother being matter, and is therefore the embodied life of God coming into incarnation in order to reveal the quality of the nature of God, which is essential love. So the soul is here to be the product of the union of the father and the mother to create the Son of God. So this is not, if you're new to this, this is not biblical, although it's esoteric, so everything kind of goes deeper than that. So it's taking the gnosis from the steps. It's like a bridge. We're taking it from our level of understanding, the level of consciousness, understanding, into that level of understanding as we lead towards awakening and overstanding the concepts. I just was watching Savan Bomar's latest video, the Adept video, where he kind of just obliterates the concept of even aspiring to godhood or speaking to this God, and even like the shirt, the good and the good and the bad. It's all a construct which has its own tethers to it in this realm, but it doesn't matter because we're getting to that understanding. You kind of have to go step by step. So I'm sure those of you are all at different levels of understanding and understanding, and just like myself. So I would encourage you to take this and to see me also not as like a teacher of this information, but as a friend on the path who's understanding it with you, who's learning more about myself so that I could be myself, which is what this is all about, because we're intrinsically here with our own musical note, our own vibration that we're meant to manifest out and express. So that's the purpose of the soul, is to express and reveal the quality of the nature of God. Definition B was that the soul can be regarded as the principle of intelligence, which was a cool section. And now that I'm not as intimidated by this section, because I promise you, in truth, I was kind of avoiding it. It seemed really long. It seemed more dense. And I was just really intimidated by it. But just like, I think it's in that more recent song, Let Go My Hand by J. Cole, he has a lyric and he says, he put something away and did a little bit more living and then came back to it. And it's so true. Like whenever you read a book, if you read it and then you put it away and then you go back and you reread it after you've aged some, it kind of makes more sense, or it hits different, right? So anyways, this book, this section, sorry, it was really exciting when I started to look at it again, and I'm just really happy to kind of tackle this. So in definition C, what is the soul and its nature? Some of the things that Alice goes over is that the soul is a unit of light colored by a particular ray vibration. It's conscious in 3 directions. And the first direction is self-consciousness. This is the human state of consciousness, where you are aware of your appearance and all the appearances around you in the form world. You're aware of human being and the diversity of form life, everything physical and material. The second direction of the soul's consciousness is group consciousness. Now this retains that first direction and level of consciousness, which is self-conscious, the human state of consciousness, plus it adds to it awareness of its ray life. So that's the rays, the qualities that we're learning about in this book, the 7 rays of personality, of everything, of deity. And then the third direction is God consciousness. Now this direction is only potential. This is after self-consciousness is perfected and group consciousness is recognized, which I thought was very interesting. So we all possess a soul, have a soul. That's arguable, debatable to some. That's messed up, but we're not here to talk about that right now. So if you watching have a soul or feel a soul call, a tide pull towards consciousness, then your soul is conscious in three directions, potentially God conscious, but first self-conscious and then group conscious, when you elevate your human consciousness to a level of awareness of the group and of the rays and this information. So let's go. Again, soul is considered the son of God, spirit plus matter, and soul is the expression of divine intelligent awareness. And now we're saying that it's also a unit of energy vibrating in unison with one of the seven rays. All right, so I think that's a good place to just go ahead and start reading for you so this doesn't get too long. Definition C, the soul is, and here words limit and distort, a unit of light colored by a particular ray vibration. It is a vibrating center of energy found within the appearance or form of its entire ray life. It is one of seven groups of millions of lives, which in their totality constitute the one life. From its very nature, the soul is conscious or aware in three directions. It is God conscious, it is group conscious, it is self-conscious. This self-conscious aspect is brought to fruition in the phenomenal appearance of a human being. The group conscious aspect retains the human state of consciousness, but adds to its awareness of its ray life. Progressively unfolded, its awareness then is the awareness of love, of quality, of spirit and its relationships. It is God conscious only potentially. And in that unfoldment lies for the soul its own growth upward and outward after its self-conscious aspect is perfected and its group awareness is recognized. The soul therefore has the following points or appearances. It has a little diagram again with those O's and those dots, and I'm not going to try. I'll just show you here again, which always gets me in trouble when I try to put it on the screen. Can you see that? Oh, this camera is really blurry in Zoom. I tried to record this on the webcam first, which I always do, and it just wouldn't work. The audio wouldn't work. And I just was like, really? Are we going to do this today? And then finally tried Zoom. That didn't work at first. Did it again. Just stayed stubborn about it, which is one of my strengths. One of the strengths that I'm perfecting. Make it productive. And I got it to work. And then the only difference between Zoom and that webcam is that it has a date and a timestamp. So who knows, maybe that's pertinent for some reason. This isn't for me to know. It was just for me to figure it out and stick to it, I guess. Anyways, let's keep going. So in that little diagram, it shows that the soul has the following points or appearances: consciousness of God, of the solar system, and unity. So the solar system, God consciousness includes consciousness of the solar system, right? And what that actually entails and is unity, the union of father and mother, spirit and matter. A step down where the soul is, or the soul is aware of consciousness, the soul is activated within the form, is when you have consciousness of the ray, one of the seven of divine quality, and group consciousness. Group consciousness, Alice Bailey talks about when you are aware of the group and you can pick up on the divine work, the work that you're meant to be doing as an aspirant, which is the step just below that, where the aspirant starts with self-consciousness, awareness of appearance, and the diversity of form life. So everything that we see around us, we see that there's a little bit more, we aspire to know more. You take on the career of the monad, where you're working towards understanding and understanding, and then overstanding. So we move into that soul conscious awareness of the soul, that you're not just this form, that you also have a consciousness of the rays or the energies that are animating the forms and creating all of these different flavors of people. And then you go a step further higher. When you have that consciousness of God, you understand the solar system, which is as above, so below. The soul, the solar system, and the solar system, the orbit of those bodies that move around and emanate and have their own colors and flavors and personalities, just like us down here as humans, and is also impacting us. So it just goes up and up and up. Continuing on. Aspirants who are studying and training themselves to live the life of service might be regarded as having reached the point where the line is to be found. To visualize this correctly, the sign should be regarded as in rapid revolution, thus producing a turning wheel, which is the wheel of life. Let me again repeat. 1, the soul is the Son of God, the product of the union of spirit and matter. 2, the soul is an embodiment of conscious mind, the expression, if one might so phrase it, of divine intelligent awareness. 3, the soul is a unit of energy, vibrating in unison with one of the 7 ray lives and colored by a particular ray. The personality of the soul is intended to be an embodiment of love, applied with intelligence, and producing those attractive forms which will serve to express that loving intelligence. The soul, in its turn, is intended to be the embodiment of divine purpose or will, intelligently applied in the great creative work, which is produced through the power of creative love. Each son of God can say, so this is each soul can say, I am born of the love of the father for the mother, of the desire of life for form. I express, therefore, the love and the magnetic attractiveness of the God nature and the responsiveness of the form nature, and am consciousness itself, aware of deity or life. I had some notes here going back to where it talks about the wheel and spiral. So like you said, it's a process. Our intelligent awakening is a process where we're spiraling around and circling and cycling through different lessons and growing outward. And so just like someone Bomar says, it's like where we want to go is like a torus field. You want to be spinning your chakras, all this stuff that's woo that people talk about and don't understand. You want to get all these like 7 energy centers, like your solar system within the body of your organs, your intelligent organs that line up your chakras. When you get them powered up, awakened and activated, they're spinning, and your energy field is less taking in. And like I said, the in and down. If you're in a pool of water and you started propelling or moving things in, or like this, you're going to go down, you're going to sink down, down, down. But if you up and out, that energy creates that toroidal field where you propel yourself, where you move upwards. And so these evolutions, so the soul is moving in this kind of spiral way around situations and scenarios. You might, while you're orbiting around the lesson of self-awareness, you might encounter different groups of people that have the same traits or different scenarios in life that teach you the same lessons. And you're like, why am I going through this again and again and again and again? It's because you're becoming self-aware through all of these examples of self-awareness until you spiral outward, until the level of the aspirant where you become group aware, where you're aware of more things, more still and more still as you grow up into this God conscious entity, and you get more of more than a glimpse of the plan or the great work. So I wrote that we spiral through cycles of life. These are opportunities for evolution. Each evolution, as we evolve within ourselves and as above the environments around us evolve, life, generations, we evolve. Human beings cycle in and out of existence, right? Generations before us had their evolutions up, and then when their time expired, they go, and then some believe are reborn back into us, or we do it again. We take that knowledge. You have the young souls, the old souls, people that carry with them gnosis from what it seems like beyond. It's like you retain certain levels of information and knowledge to take into the next iteration until we graduate to understanding what the great plan and unfolding of it all is, perhaps. And so the awakening is like a revelation, much like in the good book, the Revelations, except it's not this big curse, not like a biblical curse like revolutions, the coming of the end of times. It's a bad thing. It's the coming of the end of time, this construct that keeps us cycling in this loops, or these loops of incarnation where we're not evolving. So human beings, whatever story of evolution you follow, if you look at the progress throughout time, we should actually be, advancing a little bit more. What we see is that machines and technology and systems of control and order are advancing, or their monetary, their resources and the physical are expanding, but consciousness is kind of at a halt. Not kind of, but quite literally been at a halt for some, and then propelling forward rapidly for others. Information has been kept, like this, like learning who we are, how to know who you are is not like a common study. So people are always told, you have to be yourself, but you don't know who you are. So how are you going to do that? And so you go out and you replicate and you consume, and then you outpicture what you're told to be, which keeps us in this loop. So that's a different concept. For the adepts, for the seekers, whatever who's on this path, we're learning how to actually continue forward with what we know, because we're graduating to a different layer of the spiral. So we're going on to that group consciousness, awareness of the work and of the rays that are influencing upon us. And so that gives us awareness of the solar system, like I mentioned. And it lines up with the age of Aquarius. So when we talk about the solar system, we're talking about astrology, we're talking about all these things, these great bodies that have cycles and patterns, like she's going to mention in a second. And as we become able to pick up on those patterns and those cycles, we're actually seeing that humanity is evolving on track and on target. And so we haven't been truly hijacked. Our consciousness hasn't been truly hijacked, but it's been in a kind of a gestation stage where it's been building up and building up to some sort of climax, if you will. And that's the age of Aquarius, which we're in right now, which is going to be a lot about breaking the mold and engaging in a different level of interaction and beingness, which is what the solar system was all about, which she's going to touch on right here. I also wrote a note too, when she says in that section, each son of God can say that they are born of the love, basically, of the father for the mother. Went on a little tangent, made me think of this book by Savan Bomar, where he didn't write the book, but he was talking about it in his channel, this wounds and alien spirits, women, men of the Tsar cult of Northern Sudan, Janice Body. And I remember that the dialogue was basically talking about how these women were trained to look at the stars and the timing, the solar system or whatever, and really summon forth a star to be captured into the belly, the womb of the woman that's supposed to incarnate these beings, these certain types of souls, where you're catching souls when you're going through the reproductive process, and really intense. And so I wanted to actually go through here to look at some, because I haven't read it yet, some references of that. And as I started to read it, I didn't get any of that. It was like a heavy duty anthropological research and dense stuff, but it's very interesting too. But it did make me think of that concept of being born of the love of the father and the mother, and how actually so much of this life is being distorted to where sex is being absolutely turned upon itself, so that it's not this act of love, it's this act of, in many cases, violence and abuse against our divine nature, the feminine nature. So it's being defiled more and more and degraded to where those entities that we're catching are not so much these shooting stars that we were possibly trying to incarnate, like these souls that are supposed to be brought back in to do their work. It's been these kind of soulless entities that are more just going along without trying, to understand or grasp what builds and what destroys in this realm. Just kind of acting like what we do doesn't have any purpose repercussion, or consequence. But that's coming to an end. That's changing, right? So, settle that to say, that book might not give exactly the detail of what it is. I can't put my stamp on it yet, but this did make me think of that thought. So the soul can say, each son of God can say that they are born of the love of the father for the mother. So you are an expression of, you did make it through. If you're here and you're on this path, and you are born of the love of the father for the mother, matter and spirit, producing the expression of that divine love, because that is part of the purpose. One of the three directions that your soul expresses itself is that divine expression of deity, of God, of source, of life, not in the biblical sense, not of good and bad, right and wrong, but higher than that, as you understand. Let me take that. Whew. Let's see where I'm at on time. My darn gone it. This doesn't tell me. Hang in there. Let's see. Let's keep going. All right. So moving on to the second statement that each of us as souls can say, based on that second definition of the soul, each intelligent point of life can say, I am the product of intelligent will working through intelligent activity and producing a world of created forms which embody or veil the loving purpose of deity. I like that it says that there. You can either embody or veil the loving purpose of deity. So there's a space for both sides in this dual-natured world, so that we can come into understanding and we can learn our lessons and spiral out, right? Contrast shows us that which we want and that which we don't want, but some of us are kind of embracing what we don't want. Not us, not you and me, but some of the picture of what we're seeing is embracing what we don't want and acting and beating the drum of that, as Esther Hicks would say. And others are kind of just like, why would we keep doing these things in this way that's really not getting us anywhere? It's not evolving us towards the plan, which is more life, which is freedom, which is heaven on earth, here and now, which is all those things. But it's because some of us were created forms to veil the love, and some are born to embody the love. So we're all just playing our part. That's where where's my little, that's backwards for me. Good and bad doesn't exist in this realm. It doesn't mean that anything goes, do as thou wilt, Aleister Crowley, Satanist, all that crap. What it means is that there's a purpose, and there's an overseer, a knower that created you, that created Aleister, that created all those others, and sees you and predicted your actions and will give you the spiral repercussions and the outcomes in fair measure to your actions. So you're either embodying or you're veiling the love of deity. Each soul can say that. And lastly, each vibrating unit of energy can say, I am a part of a divine whole, which in its septenary nature expresses the love and life of the one reality, colored by the one of the seven qualities of the love of deity and responsive to the other qualities. For our purposes in this treatise, we must grasp the fact that the world of appearances is energized by a vibrate. Let me read that section over a second. For our purposes in this treatise, we must grasp the fact that the world of appearances is energized by and vibrating to the world of qualities or values, which world in its turn is energized by or vibrating to the world of purpose or of will. Therefore, as is stated in the Secret Doctrine and in a treatise on cosmic fire, the electric fire of will and the solar fire of love, in cooperation with fire by friction, produce the world of created and creative forms. These proceed under the law of attractive magnetic love towards the evolutionary accomplishment of a purpose at present inscrutable. Jumping in here with some notes. My little notebook, it started out like coherent and it turned into like a mad jumble of craziness. but I understand it. So let's see. The world of purpose or will. So it says the world of purpose or will energizes and vibrates to, is energized by. So the different worlds of consciousness that it talks about: appearances, quality, will, which is life, God force, those different levels of consciousness, each energize the world below it and vibrates to, or is energized by the world below it and vibrates to the world beneath it. So it's a flow. It's a flow. So God's will and purpose, which is the energy that pervades everything, the will to be, the energy of life, is energized by the world of qualities. The world of qualities is where the 7 rays reside. And God's world vibrates onto the rays. So that's the solar system and beyond, vibrates down to the world of qualities. And those also, in their turn, are energized by the world of appearances, forms, us, human beings, form, matter. It also is described as the illusory and tangible outer appearance. And goes in to say that each of them, they're different aspects of divinity. I hope I'm getting this confusing, but I know I am. So life, God, is the first aspect of divinity. Father informs and receives from the world of qualities, the second aspect of divinity, which is the Son. The Son is born of the union between the Father and the Mother. The Mother is matter, ma'at, the world of appearances and forms. The Mother is the third aspect of divinity. All together, they create the trifecta. Okay, so it also notes that in the world of qualities of the 7 rays is where Christ comes from, the Christ persona, and the Christ consciousness, the Christed one, the Christed anointed one. So when you embody your 7 rays, your 7 chakras, when you become the monad of the zodiac, embodying all of that, it says that Christ was also able to embody most of the 7 rays, including the ray of the solar logos himself, which is the ray of love. So Christ embodied love and also was aware of self-awareness. I am not my body. He constantly reminded people, she says in the book, that I am not what I appear to be, and that I am not the Father in heaven. Christ said this to people constantly, and he was commonly referred to as a man of quality, high quality. So the rays imbue and embody and allow the soul to express the divine nature of the Father, animated by your life force of Father with the Mother to create you, the Son. I'm going to go ahead and move on because this is getting crazy. I'm never going to finish. I'm going to stop pretty soon here after this next section, just so I don't make it too long. All right, so I said, okay, and so these proceed under the law of attractive magnetic love towards the evolutionary accomplishment of a purpose at present inscrutable. So at the time when this was written, the great plan was a little bit more faint, and they were speculating at it. Those who studied like the secret doctrine and such, the aspirants and adepts of the time were trying to tackle and get more of the big picture. What's the plan? What's the purpose of God who put us here? Okay. At the time it said there was a time where we were just, we weren't so concerned with the mind and intelligent activity. We were only concerned with expressing our appearances as good and proper. So that's where devotion came about, and falling in love with the idea of a religion, a set of principles and concepts and constructs to keep us on the up and up. So that was the goal and the manifestation of that level of consciousness for that time frame in history. And we're now evolving a little bit beyond that devotion to a bigger why of why we're here and what we're capable of. So, but at this time it was inscrutable. This purpose remains unknown only on account of the limitations of the appearance, which is not yet responsive to the quality. Quality is the 7 rays, but we're getting there. We're learning about the rays so we can understand the different qualities that we can express. The 7 rays are the 7 divine attributes of divinity, okay? And each person is colored by a specific ray. Each hue and color of a human being on that spectrum of light, it's talking about the light, the vibrations. We're a unit of energy vibrating out the 7 ray lives. God, Mom, Spirit, kind of making sense? So as we learn to respond to those different qualities and embody them and express as we are meant to from our own unique perspective, then more of the plan becomes perceivable. When the illusory appearance and the veiled quality of the life are known and comprehended, the underlying purpose will emerge with clarity. Indications of this can be dimly sensed, and the attribute of this growing awareness can be noted in the tendency of modern thought to speak of patterns and of plans, of blueprints and synthetic formulations of ideas, and in the tracing of historical developments, national, racial, human, and psychological. As we read, ponder, and study, the dim outlines of the plan appear. But until the consciousness has transcended all human limitations and has included the subhuman as well as the superhuman within its range of contacts, the true plan cannot be rightly grasped. Real quick, what is the subhuman? It says that we have to transcend human limitations and include the subhuman and the superhuman kingdoms in our contacts. The subhuman kingdom is the nature kingdom. So you have the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom. So we have to respect and include nature in our understanding of the whole big thing of why we're here, and the patterns and everything, the great unfolding, understand how it is reflected as above, so below. So we were supposed to incorporate the subhuman and the superhuman. The superhuman kingdom is the guiding hierarchy and the world of souls, those whose gnosis is of the adepts, higher consciousness that is bringing down that solar energy and sending us glimpses so that the group of world servers, the knowers, the seekers who can receive this information and articulate it out are actively participating as channels and vessels of this information so that we can move the wheel forward, because it is a wheel, it's always turning, and that's life. So as we read, we're going to ponder that plan. The will lying behind the purpose cannot be understood until the consciousness has transcended even that of the superhuman man and has become one with the divine. So it's saying, to continue on to that, not only do we need to incorporate the subhuman and the superhuman, but then we need to move beyond the superhuman. So the point where we regard the adept, the hierarchy as, and the masters as the end all be all. We have reverence and respect for where they came and understanding to leave these breadcrumbs for us. And this isn't even breadcrumbs anymore. This is like the whole meal. All of the sustenance that we need is already laid out for us, but we just have not been taught it and taught how to break it down and understand again who we are so that we can be our human. But we're getting there. That's the age that we're in. It's time for that. And so we're not going to be stuck at the level of devotion where our predecessors were stuck, because that was the level of consciousness they were meant to aspire to, is that devotion to some sort of hero, this external person who gives us the doctrines and the rules that we live by, i.e. religion, i.e. Christ, calling him the Father, and he's saying, look, I and my Father, I and my Father are one, but I'm not my Father, and I'm not this human. Come on, guys. Like he's saying, he's trying to break it down. They weren't ready. So now it's saying that our consciousness is going to transcend even that of the superhuman. So we're not looking at these invisible people in the sky as the answer. We're understanding how we are actually God conscious, which is that energy that separated itself and put itself into form, a fraction of it, and was still able to be there and here at the same time and have this experience, and permeates through each and every one of these things, the subhuman, the superhuman, and beyond. Okay, so it's going to be an encompassing consciousness of all of that, which reveals the full plan. Will, or the energy of life, are synonymous terms and are an abstraction, existing apart from all form expression. The will to be emerges from outside the solar system altogether. It is the all-pervading energy of God, which informs with a fraction of itself the solar system, and yet remains outside. That's what I just said. The will to be, our desire to exist, it emerges from outside of the solar system altogether. So that's beyond our understanding of astrology. That's beyond our understanding of the planetary bodies. It is the all-pervading energy of God. God, not a man in the sky who judges and puts down the gavel and says who's good or bad, good or evil. Not this false, stuff. It's beyond that. We're elevating, but this is still important, right? The good book is still important for those who need rules and regulations. We're not saying throw that out. It's not do as thou wilt. It's understanding that we're going to be good, do good, for good. I'm like touching my boob here. Sorry. But we're going to go beyond that. So it's beyond the solar system altogether. It's the all-pervading energy of God that informs a fraction of itself into the solar system. All the energy and all the power that is in astrology and is in the solar system is still just a fraction. It's an iota of the power and the magnitude of the life force, which is God, which is will, which is all in all. So that is what we're getting to. It was able to divide itself down and still remain outside. Plan and purpose concern the emanating energies of that central life and involve duality, will, or the life urge, plus attractive magnetic love, which in its turn is the response of the vibrating universal substance to the impact of the energy of will. This initial activity precedes the creative process of form building, and the play of the divine will on the ocean of space, matter, or etheric substance produced the first differentiation into the major rays, and their mutual interplay produced the minor four rays. Thus, the seven emanations, the seven potencies, and the seven rays came into manifestation. They are the seven breaths of the one life, the seven basic energies. They streamed forth from the center, formed by the impact of the will of God on divine substance, and divided into seven streams of force. The radius of the influence of these seven streams determined the extent or scope of activity of a solar system and outlined the limits of the form of the incarnated cosmic Christ. Each of these seven streams or emanations of energy was colored by a divine quality, an aspect of love, and all of them were needed for the ultimate perfecting of the latent and unrevealed purpose. All right, that's where I'm going to stop. But this, that whole section right there is like poetry, but it's all kind of basically saying that this all started as that spark where the divine wanted to be in physicality and to experience itself and express itself in all the ways that it could be expressed. And that manifested as the seven planets of our solar system, as we are to understand it right now. It's because we're in this system, we're in this spiral, right? There's still a bigger outer, and it says earlier in this book too, we're not dealing with all that. We're not dealing with the macrocosm, we're just dealing with the human experience, because we still haven't figured that out, right? But it's who we are. We should know this. So it created the solar system, the planets, and each of those emanations, the planets, have a ray manifestation or an energy that they express of the divine nature. And if you look into astrology and you look at the planets and you look at their aspects and how they express, or the energy that they embody, you have Pluto, which is this scorpionic energy. It just creates and destroys. Mars is also of that energy, where it's that war and dominance. It's still there. The divine energy doesn't discount the full spectrum, all the colors, all the hues of humanity. It includes all of them, where it goes from that to Venus, which is the energy of love, the goddess, the feminine, right? And you also have we'll just look at all the 7 planets, all of their factors, all their energies, and just understand that that's how this is talking about that expression. It started with a thought, or with a notion, a desire from deity to express itself, and it manifested as these bodies. And then on one of those bodies expressed as a smaller, still a more finite expression, which is human beings, and then down to the minerals and the vegetables and all the animals and everything. And they're all operating on these energies, these energetic signatures. And we're supposed to be aware of that. But first we have to become aware of ourselves, who we are as unique beings, not these drones that copycat each other and have and consume who we are supposed to be outputting. We're going to actually learn who we are, be who we are, express that divine nature, and evolve the plan. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to stop right here. Finish with the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ consciousness return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let the purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you for being here. If you made it to the end of this video, even if you didn't, just kind of like, hopefully you took it in sections, came back, finished the job. Thank you for being, because that's all you have to do. All right, take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.